Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Football.
And welcome into the Inside Arkansas Football pregame show presented by our friends over at Saracen. I am John Neighbors alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis as we are getting you geared up for Arkansas and Texas A&M happening today at 2:30. And it should be an interesting one, the weather and all that crazy stuff going on. But we're going to get you ready with a little preview of Arkansas and A&M. And fellas, it's game day. How are we feeling on this game day? Now that Saturday's finally here, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling a little crazy, John. I got to be honest with you. I mean, is it going to rain on our parade? It might. This has been a series that has had no issues whatsoever, just getting a little bit weird or a lot of bit weird. And now we're taking it to the campuses, and we've got an interim coach on one side, a rarely undefeated Texas A&M team on the other, and maybe we'll get some crazy weather also. So will this just be the next chapter in a long book of crazy games between Arkansas and Texas A&M? Probably so. If I got to be honest with you, that's kind of how I'm feeling when I woke up today.
Yeah, man, I'm fired up for this one, honestly. I think back to when we did the Arkansas State pregame and the Memphis pregame, and we kind of talked about how this is a game that doesn't have a ton of stakes, but if something stupid happens, it could have a lot of stakes. If you lose to Arkansas State, that's going to be a big deal. If you lose to Memphis, that's going to be a big deal. And, of course, it wound up being a big deal. That's kind of how I feel, but in reverse here, where for a lot of people around the country, this isn't a game they have circled. For a lot of people in the state of Arkansas even, this is a game that they're kind of just looking to get over with. I'm like, oh, yeah, they're going to lose to A&M at home. But this could very quickly turn into one of the most consequential, noteworthy games of recent program history if Arkansas were to pull off something special here. And so it's kind of a unique situation where I know a lot of Hog fans aren't thrilled, but I think there's a huge opportunity in front of the Arkansas Razorbacks and in front of our king, Bobby Petrino, who we love unconditionally.
That's right. And we know that today is a unique one because it's the first time that Arkansas and A&M have faced off against each other in Fayetteville since 2013. This game has been played in Arlington pretty much since 2008 or 2009 was the first year. You had 3 games that were not in Arlington, which, of course, in 2012 and 2013, you had it at in College Station there for Johnny Manziel's coming out party in 2012. Didn't go well for Arkansas. Didn't go well for Arkansas the next year in Fayetteville as they lost there. And then, of course, the COVID year, somehow COVID let Texas A&M have a game down there in College Station. So for the first time in a while, it's going to be in Fayetteville, and it's going to be interesting to dive into. But we'll get into all of our details, predictions. We'll also hear from David Nuno of Texags, who gives us a little preview of what to expect out of Texas A&M later here in this show. But guys, let's go ahead and start with our player challenges because, every pregame show we talk about the players that we want to challenge and we want to look at. And so I'll go ahead and kick us off with the player I want to challenge. And to me, again, we could call it low-hanging fruit, whatever it is. But to me, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Xavier Sori because, he's a guy that we know what he's capable of. We've seen flashes of him look really good. We know that he's a former 5-star, was at Georgia. He's a team captain. He was at Media Days. We know all those things about him. And we also know that last time you saw him at home against Notre Dame and even against Memphis, it's just like, where was this guy? This guy was just non-existent. He wasn't anywhere to be found. He wasn't making tackles or anything. And against Tennessee, I felt like it got a little bit better. I don't remember any extravagant plays that he made personally, but it definitely seemed like he wasn't missing the tackles and getting tackles broken on him like before. And so in this particular game, especially if the weather is a factor, you're going to have to make these plays. You're not going to allow and can't allow Texas A&M, especially without their best running back in Moss. You can't allow this to just be something to where you let them run all over you because that'll be demoralizing. That'll be the way. And we know the D-line is already struggling with depth and talent as it is. And when they get to that second level, I don't want to see the secondary players leading the teams in tackles. I just don't want to see that. You need to be that guy in that second level that makes those tackles. We know what you're capable of. We know that you're good, but these are times, and this is a moment that you're going to have to step up, especially to be the leader and the captain of the defense. The player I'm challenging is going to be linebacker Xavier Sori.
It's a good challenge, man. Yeah, you could go with Sori, any of those linebackers. You make a lot of good points there. Like with the rain and the weather and everything like that, it could be a situation where they're just trying to turn and hand the football off. And you're right, man. Like, especially on the interior, your defensive line is kind of decimated with depth, and it already kind of stinks. Just being honest about the situation here, you got to have those run fits on point. You got to be able to finish tackles, or it's going to be death by 1,000 needles in this football game. Just a slow bleed is kind of what this would be shaping up to be. If those guys, Sori in particular, just play anywhere up to the standard that he set last year, which is far higher than what we've seen pretty much the entire season this year, that could go a long way for Arkansas there. So I think that's a good one. My challenge, there's a couple different ways I could have gone here. I'll go over to the offensive side of the ball. I'll take some low-hanging fruit on that side. It's Talon Green. We were doing the thing, I guess, before Sam got fired, where it was like, all right, Talon, the challenge for you is go from the guy that keeps Arkansas in games to the guy that wins them a game. Like, take that next step in your progression, everything like that. I'm not even going there in this game. I know that he's going to make some plays. I know that he's going to do 3rd and Talon and extend some drives. I'm asking you to avoid that killer sack that knocks you out of field goal range. I'm asking you to not hold the football out there all willy-nilly and have that terrible fumble that costs you some points on the other side, or to make that poor decision with the throw that sometimes you just seem hell-bent on doing that turns into an interception. We know Arkansas is 121st in the country in turnover margin, and Texas A&M, as solid as they've been all year, undefeated, everything, they have been masterful at making teams pay for their mistakes. And if it wasn't for teams making those mistakes and A&M being able to capitalize, they wouldn't be undefeated right now. And so it just seems like an Arkansas team that's ripe for the picking from that standpoint. And Talon Green just taking care of it, man. Take care of that football, baby. And you're going to give your team a chance here in this football game. Will he do it? I don't know. But my challenge is for Talon Green, avoid those silly mistakes, my man.
Yeah, winning the turnover battle, something I'm sure we'll talk about, something that's going to be huge against A&M. I will say I was prepared for you guys to both go on the defensive side of the ball. I thought I was going to be alone on the offensive side. Before I do my offensive challenge, which is my real one, I want to give a challenge to whoever is in charge of handing out the oxygen. You know, those little masks. When you have the big guys do a thing, you got to get the mask on them. Whoever is doing that for the D-line is going to have overtime duty. Ian Giffard and Cam Ball are going to have to play a ton of snaps.
Man, oh man.
You got to make sure those boys are getting their oxygen, getting ready. But I want to stick on the offensive side of the ball with you, Curtis. I'm looking at the tight end room. One, Jaden Platt, of course, a former Texas A&M Aggie, played for Bobby Petrino under there. So there's some familiarity there, some maybe revenge or whatever. That's really not even what I'm interested in. I just think the whole room was a little bit silent last week. Rohan Jones has become a huge downfield playmaker for this Arkansas offense, has seemed to kind of be a matchup nightmare at times. Jaden Platt has also taken a huge step forward this year at Arkansas. I've been very encouraged by what I've seen by him. I think in this type of matchup, of course, Talon is going to have to make a ton of those plays. Arkansas is going to have to run the ball similar to how they did last week. You're also going to need something a little extra. And I think sometimes those tight ends can be that little thing you didn't prepare for necessarily and can be a little bit of a matchup nightmare. We also know Bobby Petrino likes to do some tomfoolery. We know the cowboy giddy-up plays can get those tight ends open downfield. Every now and then you do something like that. I also think from a pass protection standpoint, last week was the first time we really saw this offensive line struggle in pass protection. So perhaps you could have some help there with the tight ends there. Andreas Poski not going to be there for Arkansas in this game. So it's going to be a big Jaden Platt, Rohan Jones day. Both those guys are going to have to step up both in the pass catching department and in the blocking.
No, those are good ones too. Cause actually, something made me think about Curtis with Talon Green, talking about making the plays and making the game winning plays and whatnot. It is wild. Do you think Arkansas has had these close games and have ended up losing them in one possession, especially the ones on the road? It's like Talon actually did good work in those fights. Like the final drive against Ole Miss. I mean, they were driving and they had the fumble by Brown and that was it. Against Memphis, you shouldn't have been there in the situation in the first place. I get it. But against Memphis, you were driving. You were right there. But Michael Washington fumbled the ball. And then even against Tennessee, that last drive that they led him on, that was incredible. Like, he was great. So it's like, I'm not trying to just say that he's perfect and doesn't deserve any blame, because there's more than just the final drive. But those final drives have, like, Talon's done a good job. It's just fumbles or not being enough or whatever that seemed to have cost them. And that to me is what's going to be fascinating is, first off, if Arkansas is in a one possession game or in the game late in the fourth quarter, I'm going to be tickled. Like, I just be honest, if they're in that position. But I actually have felt pretty good about Talon in those moments. It's the other things he's got to work on, the fumbles and stuff. But in those do or die moments, I think he's been really good. And of course, everybody knows I'm the Bobby Petrino guy. Some days I hate him, sometimes I love him, depending on who you ask. But I love how he'll always have the team prepared for those final drives and how it goes. So, but the weather in here, I think, is playing a factor into all of our challenges. At least I would assume so, because geez, Talon, just hold on to the ball, man. Just don't try to do anything crazy. Hopefully he has those big hands like we talked about yesterday, that he can hold on to the ball there. And
the only quarterbacks that have thrown more interceptions in the SEC than Talon Green are John Mateer and DJ Lagway. Lagway did all that in one game. So sure, on the final drive, we want to talk about who's fumbling it. That's fine, but he gives up the pill more often than he needs to. Yeah, whether he's throwing it or it's falling out of his hands.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
And it happened against A&M last year. I don't know that I can necessarily blame him for some of that, but it is what it is.
It's a good point. This game last year was kind of one of the big moments. I think Pittman used the term rattled, and he didn't single out Talon, but you kind of knew who he was talking about. There was some arguing on the sidelines. It was a game that Arkansas had a chance to win. Will this be a different version of Talon? I think that's kind of the question I've had going into all these matchups, because we know what Talon looked like his first go around against all these SEC teams. What will it look like the second time? We'll see if he's, and I'm sure that's something they've talked about a ton this week, is holding on to the football. Bobby pretty much blamed Talon for the 2 fumbles he had last week.
Yeah. Well, if they fumble the ball against A&M, as you mentioned, Curtis, it's going to be a same result as we've seen. They got to be able to protect the ball, no doubt about it, especially against a good team like A&M. We'll have more of the discussions here, as well as get into our bowl predictions. But I want to remind everybody that our pregame, of course, has one of our great sponsors and partners of OZK Insurance. A lot of you are going to be going to the game today. Kudos to you, but I guarantee you, you're probably not going without an umbrella. You're probably not going without a poncho. Why is that? Because you want to be protected, right? You want to be protected from the rain. You want to be protected in all those moments. Well, you probably want the same thing when it comes to everything in life. You want to be protected, and that's what OZK Insurance can help you out with, because they are a 100% independent agency. They shop the entire marketplace to deliver the best combination of cost and coverage, which saves you both time and money. Those things are very important. So it doesn't matter if it's home, auto, boat, motorcycle, life, or commercial insurance. Their friendly team has access to a wide range of flexible options designed just for you, and they serve the Northwest and Central Arkansas areas. That includes Bentonville, Centerton, Fayetteville, Little Rock, Hot Springs, Springdale, and beyond. They do it all and everywhere. So let OZK Insurance be the trusted advisor you never knew you needed. You can start with a free online quote today at ozkinsurance.com. That's ozkinsurance.com, or you can call 479-715-4200. It's OZK Insurance, protection made simple. Okay, again, we're on the Inside Arkansas Football pregame show, getting you ready for Arkansas and Texas A&M. Talk about our challenges, but now it kind of goes into what our bowl predictions could end up being, which, I don't know if we need to be taking score of how our bowl predictions have worked out. It's not important, but either way, Curtis, I'll go have you kick us off. What do you feel like, as far as bowl predictions go, happens in today's game with Arkansas and A&M?
What would be a decent... I'll tell you what, we're talking so much about turnovers and ball security and the rain and the elements, making it slippery, everything else. My bold prediction is that this is going to be a fumble-free football game. Both teams. Nobody's putting it on the turf. And we're not going to be able to look back at this one and say, damn it, if they wouldn't have fumbled here. Man, that last drive, they were in the red zone. And, no fumbles in this football game. That might be the bold prediction we've ever had in these.
I mean, it's like we always do the thing of like, hey, if you want to win the game, you probably need to win the turnover battle. Like, obviously, that's a thing that helps you win football games. But for this Arkansas team, man, it's one of the most fascinating things, not only because you just know they aren't going to win the turnover battle, but it's like they won't even force them. And so I could see something like that, Curtis, because it's going to be such a point of emphasis for both teams. It's like, if you come into a game in the rain and the ball's all over the floor, that tells me you really didn't prepare too much for that. I don't think either coach is going to make that mistake. Arkansas's got to force a turnover at some point, man. At some point, you have to. It's like, it's kind of insane. My bold prediction. So I think I don't remember what you guys' final score predictions were. We'll talk about them here in a second, I'm sure. But I think this is going to be a closer game. I see Arkansas being in that same spot that they were in against Ole Miss, that same spot they were in against Tennessee. The game is late. You have a chance to win the game. I'm not going to say whether or not. I'll save it for the spoiler section later in the show about whether or not I think Arkansas is going to get over that hump and win a game. But I believe Arkansas will have a lead in the fourth quarter of this football game.
Okay. lead in the fourth quarter. That would be, I think I'd sign up for that. Most people would sign up for that. We'll see if it actually goes well, because it normally doesn't. But hey, having a lead is better than never having a lead in a game, I've always said. So, but yeah, no, those are good ones. I'll tell you this. I always like to, when it comes to some of the bowl predictions I've made, I've always liked to look at the stats and the numbers and see, what each team is good at and which team is not good at. And one of the things that really stood out to me in this type of stat is the third down conversion versus third down conversion defense. Arkansas is dead last in the SEC in third down conversion percentage for defense. Texas A&M is first, and not only in the SEC, in the country in third down percentage defense conversion rate. So you're talking about opposites there on defense, but it's going to be about the offense versus the defense. Arkansas is second in the SEC in their third down conversion rate on offense, but A&M is 13th in there. So you're talking about completely opposite spectrums here on offense and defense. So my bold prediction is that third and Talon is going to show out. You're going to have the second best third down conversion rate for offense in the country versus the first defense. I think Arkansas wins the battle. I think Arkansas wins the battle on that. And I think the key to that is going to be getting in shorter yardage situations. Third and Talon, listen, if it's third and 25, we feel good about Talon finding something to work. But with the weather conditions and everything to go along with it, I feel so much better about it if they establish the run. But I think Arkansas is going to put themselves, because Bobby Petrino is going to make an emphasis on it, because I think they're going to run the ball fairly effectively. I think that they're going to be in those 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3 situations, and they're going to do a really good job of extending those drives, because that's going to be huge for this team and for defense, as we know. You don't have the depth and everything, but keeping your offense on the field and defense off the field is crucial. And the way you do that is you convert these third downs, you convert the short yard situations, you make good decisions too, Bobby, on when to go for it and when not to go for it, when to kick a field goal, when not to kick a field goal. That's going to be crucial in this one too. But I think Arkansas wins that battle between really good defense and offense. And I think because of that, that's what's going to lead to, as Andrew said, his bold prediction of Arkansas having a lead is because of the way they were able to extend those drives and keep the defense off the field and keep them as fresh as possible in this one.
You know what? A big part of the reason why, and I know it got away from him there for a moment in the second half, but why that game in Knoxville last weekend was so tight for so long, Arkansas had him doubled up in time of possession for the longest, like most of the first half, extending drives, moving the chains, converting third downs. All those things were a big part of it. So, yeah, I like that a lot. That's probably, we used to do the thing where sometimes we would do like position battles or something, like this position versus that position. It's the biggest one on the, for the game or whatever. But yeah, if we were to do like a stat versus stat of what would be most important in this, to the outcome of this one, that's probably a pretty darn good one to pick, John. I like it.
I think you both have touched on something that's very interesting when I think about this game. So we go into every Arkansas game knowing, hey, it's going to need, the offense is going to need to score a ton of points, and Talon is probably going to have to just make a ton of things happen. That's just part of the formula. If Arkansas is going to beat A&M, it's probably because Talon Green did something special. And you look at it on the A&M side, Marcel Reed, part of what drew him to, officially getting that quarterback job is he was such a cool, calm, collected, doesn't make mistakes, doesn't turn the ball over. That's part of why they ended up rolling with him over Connor Wegman last year. And I think coming into this year, one thing I've noticed about Marcel Reed, he takes a lot more chances than I maybe gave him credit for. Because I think coming into the year, there were a lot of people who were like, oh, he's a good athlete, he can run, but like, can he push the ball downfield? And when I watch A&M, he can push the ball downfield. And not only can he likes to do that. And so I think Arkansas should try. I think their goal should be to try and bait Marcel Reed into thinking he needs to put on his Superman cape. By the way, Marcel Reed has not had a game this year where he's had double-digit rush attempts. He's a very athletic quarterback, good in the run game. They're very selective with when they use that. I think Arkansas should try and maybe load it up to where they have to use that a little bit more often. Maybe bait Marcel Reed into feeling like, hey, I'm in a shootout with another really good quarterback. Let me see if I can push the envelope. And on the other side, I think Talon should not have that mentality. I think Talon should be trying to be the game manager, be the conservative. Hey, let's just move the chains. Let's just move the ball downfield. Let's keep possession of the football. And so I think there's a thing where, you probably think of it nationally. You're thinking, okay, it's going to be a shootout. Talon Green versus Marcel Reed, two great quarterbacks. I think Arkansas should not feed into that, and I think they should somehow try and trick Marcel Reed into being like, let me push the ball downfield, let me take some chances. He's thrown 4 interceptions this year. He likes to put the ball in harm's way a little bit. Like Marcel Reed's a little bit more of a gunslinger than I realized coming into this year.
Yeah, I was even talking with some Texas A&M people, and they feel like they're not very confident in Marcel Reed, like just that he can do the things. Like it seems like he does risk it a little too often, and that could end up paying for him in this game. But I will say, I have like an honorable mention, real quick, of a bowl prediction because it just did really illustrate how bad Arkansas' scoring defense is. I want to throw this to everybody. So scoring defense wise, Texas A&M ranks 13 in the SEC. That's pretty bad, right? 13th. It's almost close to last. That's 42nd in the country. It's almost like Arkansas's recruiting rankings. It's like, they're 42nd in the country, but 13th in the SEC. That's like, oh man. Well, it just shows you how the margin is different. Arkansas is dead last in scoring defense in the SEC at 16th, but they're 114th in the country. So if that tells you just how big of a gap there is, it's right there. And the bold prediction I'm going to make in this is that Texas A&M is only given up about 20.3 points per game. They will give up more than that in this game. I know we'll get to our predictions and everything, but they'll give up more than that. But on the other side of it too, I think Arkansas holds Texas A&M to a lower amount than their average scoring offense, which is at 35 points a game. So I think that's another little bold prediction, is that Arkansas scores more than A&M's averaging, and they hold A&M to less than what they're averaging offensively. So now that probably means because I feel good about this weather game and I'm hoping it impacts people. That's probably what it's based more on, but I'm going to roll with that. But
All right.
Yeah, for what it's worth. I don't know. I love looking at the numbers and everything, and it's chaotic. Like I feel like Arkansas is just either really good at one category or they're dead last. Like that's every category. It's like they're in the top 3 or 4 in the SEC, or they're dead last in it. So it's pretty rough there. It's pretty rough.
Let me ask you guys something real quick. Where are we at with Arkansas's offensive line, Arkansas's pass protection? Because man, it's just been so solid throughout the course of the entire season. Faced, I would say, their stiffest challenge from that standpoint against Tennessee didn't go particularly well for them. I look at this Texas A&M team, 5th in the country in sacks on the season, and I wonder about that because we think about like Talon, he take care of the football and everything. Sometimes it's not on him, man. Like somebody's getting blindsided. He put it on the turf 3 times in this game last year, and he was running for his life the entire time. He had 13 carries for 6 yards, if I recall correctly, from that game. And I just remember going into that one last year, I was like, Texas A&M, look at all the stats and everything, their pass rush, it's not what it used to be. Maybe Arkansas will be okay here. And really quickly, it just seemed like they were overwhelmed. And I know Arkansas's offensive line has improved, but so is A&M's pass rush. And it's not just their defensive front. They'll do a lot of what Tennessee did, where they'll send 5 or 6 at you. And maybe that's where Arkansas has had some more struggles of picking up that extra guy. That might be an underrated aspect of this game too, is the improvements they make there from last week to this week. Because if Talon Green's a sitting duck back there, that's a scary proposition.
Yeah, I don't think it was a coincidence that Arkansas's worst pass protection performance came against Tennessee, by far the best defensive front they faced. And that's not to say that Arkansas got exposed. When you face better pass rushes, it's going to be harder to protect. And so that's a story we've seen play out in this A&M game a ton. A&M always has NFL defensive linemen. I mean, going back to Myles Garrett, I remember that 2016 game that we were talking about the other day where Arkansas, I think Austin Allen got sacked 9 times or something like that. And it's just been a popular theme. And you mentioned last year's game where Talon kind of got overwhelmed by that pass rush. I think that's a huge storyline in this game. And it's even more important to why Arkansas is going to have to stay out of 3rd and long. I thought the improvements that Arkansas made in the run game with their offensive line last week is something you can build on, because that can certainly help alleviate some of that pass rush issue. So that's what I'm kind of worried or interested to see is Arkansas going to really be able to continue that run game? And will it also help them solve the pass rush issue? Or is the run game something that is unsustainable, something they're not going to be able to replicate, and then they're going to face an even better defensive front? I am a little bit worried about that matchup, but I think, of course, Bobby and the boys know what's at stake. They know what they're up against. I'm sure they'll have a plan, but I think that is something to consider, because we went through the first 4 weeks of the season where we didn't even really consider other teams' pass rush. They just weren't getting home against Arkansas. In these big moments in the game, I don't think it's going to be every drive Arkansas can't block them, but that's something you need to keep in the back of your mind when it's a huge 3rd and 9 in the 4th quarter. Don't be surprised if this A&M pass rush gets home.
Well, that kind of leads me into another point of it too, because which I agree with you guys completely, but like as far as the play calling, and is it going to be more of an aggressive nature? Because last week they went for it on that time, and Bobby Petrino says he shouldn't have done it. But given the circumstances that you are going up against a top 4 team, given the circumstances that the weather could be playing a factor, and also, as you guys said, given the circumstances, there's a chance that Taylor Green may be running for his life again. And there could be some 3-and-out situations, could be 3rd and long situations into being problematic. If you're Bobby Petrino, like, are you, and with the weather being a factor into it as well, are you going to play a little bit more aggressive to where, depending on where it's at, you go for it on 4th and 3? Or do you say, hey, we're here at the goal line, or like our simulation the other day when Arkansas got 3 straight field goals or whatever at the goal line? It's like, do you go for those more often? Or if it's like, hey, those types of situations, let's go for the touchdown. Like, how do you think they balance out the aggressive approach or the conservative approach, given all these factors that could play a pretty heavy hand against a top 5 team like A&M?
I truly hope that Arkansas does not overcorrect after last week, because hearing Bobby in his press conference, he was really kicking himself for not kicking that football in that situation there. And so there's a part of me that thinks, okay, Bobby, this team, this staff, you have nothing to lose. Like, you have to be aggressive. You're trying to win a job. You got to win games. So you have to be aggressive. You can't be passive. That's part of what pissed people off a lot of times with Sam, was decision-making in those times. And oftentimes he might be a little bit passive in certain situations there. But on one hand, I feel that way, but then I keep thinking about Bobby's work and how many times he went back to that. You could have talked about the fumbles, anything in the world you wanted to, but he really lamented on that and took a lot of ownership of it. How could that not be in the back of his mind if they're in a similar situation in this football game? I like to think he's got some balls about him, and he might just say, you know what, screw it. I feel great about this situation, just like I did then. I'm going for it, baby. But I don't know, man. Maybe he takes the points this time and sees if it plays out a little bit differently for him.
And a lot of times it ends up being informed by how the game goes. If you get into the game and all of a sudden you're getting 1.7 yards a carry, you're not able to really move them at the line of scrimmage. It's a little bit different if you're in a 4th and 1 in those circumstances compared to last when you were really running the ball effectively. I mean, really on offense, Arkansas did whatever they wanted to other than hold on to the football. And so I think a lot of that's going to come down to that first half. We'll have a very good idea for what kind of game we're in. We'll know, can we block their front in pass protection? Can we run the ball effectively? Is Taylor rattled? Like, what's going on here? Can we get these guys open here? And you mentioned the A&M scoring defense. It's weird because you look at some of the numbers and you're like, man, not that great of a defense. But then you look a little bit closer and you're like, but they got a pretty good pass rush. Really, nobody scored that much on them. So it is going to be interesting to see how ballsy Petrino will be. But I think we'll know pretty early on what type of game we're in and whether it's a game that Arkansas has any offensive rhythm, which, to be fair, they've had a pretty good offensive rhythm in every game except for the Notre Dame game.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because that's, I think, was something that stands out is you see they're 13th in scoring defense in the SEC, but they're 5th in total defense, they're 8th in rushing defense, and they're 7th in passing defense. Right. So it doesn't add up. How in the world are they 13th when they do that? Well, it's because they're dead last in the SEC and one of the worst teams in red zone defense. Dead last. So it's like, A&M, that's the only category that they're last in the SEC, and they're, again, 121st. So that's another thing that Arkansas definitely needs to take advantage of, because Arkansas's red zone offense hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been great. They got to take advantage of it. So I'll ask you this, because I know we'll move on to some other things, guys. Where we're talking about aggressive nature, let's just set the scene. If Arkansas has not led in this game once, they storm back and they score the go-ahead touchdown where they have to kick an extra point or go for 2 if they want to win it, or if they want to go to overtime and kick the extra point. What do you think Arkansas should do in that situation where the game's basically over? It's like, all you got to do, it's not like there's 4 minutes left, like game on the line. Do you go for 2, go for the win, risk losing it, or do you go for the OT?
I'm going for 2, baby.
Yeah.
Let's get weird, man. I trust Bobby on one play call over all the factors that would go into like tying a game and sending it to overtime. You get your defense is going to have to do something again. Screw it. One play. Let's see what happens. My favorite move of the Sam Pittman era was going for 2 against Ole Miss that time. Didn't work out. That sucks. Whatever. I thought it was a great call. Great move. I would be all for that in this situation. And I promise I will not piss and moan about it regardless of how it played out.
Same, and I'm even saying that I was a guy that I thought Bobby was a little too hard on himself for going for it on that fourth down, because I'm like, I think that's a decision you got to make and just live with it. And I think that's the situation you got to do with this 2-point. The only possible caveat I'd throw in is if the game plays out where you have to use 2 or 3 2-point plays, maybe that's a little different, because I know teams go into games with a certain amount. If you've already gone for 2 twice or something like that, maybe it changes it. But in a nutshell, if you could just tell me tomorrow or today, like you just say, hey, this game is going to come down to 1 play, Taylon Green at the 2-yard line, run pass option, whatever you want to do. I think Hog fans would sign up for that much more than they would sign up for this game's going to come down to whether or not you get a stop in overtime. Yeah, I think we would much rather sign up for the Taylon Green run pass option, right?
Let me ask you this. Game on the line, need a touchdown, on the goal line, final play. Do you push it with Taylon, or do you go mouse package and give it to Shaq McCroy?
Mouse.
I think here's what I do. I push it with Shaq McCroy ramming right into the back of Taylon Green.
You've got to be involved, right?
Yeah. I feel like that would break Taylon, though. You may be out for the season that happened. But no, I'm with you. But also, I'm glad you guys said, going back to the 2-point conversion. I know it was a long time ago, but would you like to know what Bobby Petrino's conversion rate was on 2-point conversions as head coach at Arkansas?
I would.
69.3.
5 for 5.
Wow, he only attempted 5 2-point conversions?
According to my stats.
I guess, it's not a super common thing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, he did it against A&M in that comeback victory. He did it against Vanderbilt in that comeback victory. He did it against Auburn to beat them in 2008.
Tyler Wilson read option against A&M. I remember that. It was like the only time all year Tyler Wilson kept it on a read option was in that 2-point conversion against A&M.
Yep. And the fun fact, speaking of Tyler Wilson, one thing he told me about, he said, if I needed a 2-point conversion play with the game on the line, he's like, and I had any coach to call a play, it's Bobby, because he just had, because as he put it, when do you need 2-point conversions? When the game's on the line. So he saves the most important, crazy plays. Because even that 2-point conversion against Auburn in 2008, they ran I don't know if you remember, a wide receiver pass to Joe Adams, throwing it back to Casey Dick for the 2-pointer, and it worked out. So
Kansas tried that play in the Liberty Bowl that one year and didn't work out.
Yeah, well, things are always a little bit different for everybody. So, but we'll get to more here on the Inside Arkansas Football pregame show presented by Bet Saracen. We want to remind everybody the Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas is the place to get all of your professional lighting when it comes to this holiday season. Christmas is going to be here before you know it, and it's always about the lighting. You want to make sure that your house is looking good, because there's nothing worse than being in a really nice neighborhood with all these houses and they're all just lit up and they look so good and everything because they called Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas and you didn't. And you're that one little puny house over there that everyone's making fun of. Be like, that guy doesn't know anything about the holiday season. Don't be those people. Don't be that family. Don't be that house. Let Walter Christmas Lighting get you covered and help you out here in the Northwest Arkansas and River Valley. They provide all the materials. You get any color, any pattern. They install the lights and also give you free maintenance throughout the holiday season. So give our guy Brett a text today at 479-459-1380. That's 479-459-1380. You can also check out their website at walterchristmaslighting.com. Check it out on Facebook by scanning that QR code on your screen. It's Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. Okay, and I know that, again, with this Texas A&M game, we'll hear from David Nuno here in just a little bit of Texags and get a little preview of what's going on. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up when we're talking about the aggressive nature and the approach to everything, this was actually a question I wanted to talk about yesterday on the show because it got asked to me by a listener, but we can do it right now since it has to deal with this game. Do you think it's more likely that Arkansas has to come from behind in this game, or do you think that they have to try to hold a lead in this game? I know, Andrew, you said having a lead, but as far as if they're going to lose, say, if you have them losing, what's it going to be more likely that they're going to blow a lead, or it's going to be too little too late for them to storm back and get the victory, kind of like against Tennessee and Ole Miss and other games?
I mean, it's more likely they come from behind. They have to come from behind, right? If you think they're losing, a part of that equation should probably include them losing early in the game, right?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit more difficult, even with the offense being good, for Arkansas to get and then maintain a lead because, your defense is going to have to get so many stops there. So it feels like they're going to be playing from very close or behind in most of these situations. I would lean towards maybe them having to come back.
Yeah.
But you never know. Like, you could score on the first drive and Reed puts it on the turf. Next thing you know, you're up 14-0, like 5 minutes into the game. And it's like, holy hell, what's going on here?
You know, a big part of the reason why Arkansas takes the ball every time they win the toss is because they want to be in front. They want to play with a lead. They want to be in control of the pace of the game and kind of setting that tone. And I think last week is just like, it's like the 7th time in a row that it has not gone in their favor. I understand the premise behind it. I think Arkansas needs to abandon that mindset. Obviously, I'm cool with wanting to score first, wanting to have a lead. Cool, but it's like, I think that they have learned here lately, getting the ball first and taking the lead is great. It's not as valuable as you think it is because it has not led to you actually winning football games.
Yeah, and I think it's also because we've seen both of those situations happen so far this year to Arkansas, where, yes, against Ole Miss and against Tennessee, they're having to storm back. But against Memphis, they had a big lead. I forgot exactly what the score was, but it was a 2-3 possession lead.
10, I think.
Yeah. And they gave it up. So it's like we've seen them. They find all cool ways to lose, and they've lost it both ways. Notre Dame, no one cared. Like, that game it didn't matter. So the closest Arkansas was at the kickoff. But the point is like we've seen them lose both ways, and it's just what makes it so funny is you should never be this way anyways, no matter what you are a fan. But Arkansas fans, man, it doesn't matter if they got a big lead or anything. They're just going to feel the same way, where it's like, all right, when's it going to start slipping? When's it going to start happening? When's it going to play in? When's it going to be a problem? Let's just hope that's not the case, because I feel like it'd be more brutal always to have a big lead and lose it than have to come from behind and just run out of time. It's always going to be more brutal.
That'd be an easy way for us to just officially declare this season dead.
Yeah.
Arkansas blows a huge lead against A&M. You know, it's like, they could come back and beat Auburn. They could maybe beat Mississippi State. But it's like, if they blow a huge lead against the best opponent left on their schedule, that's just, I don't know how you mentally psych yourself up for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I just don't think you can. I just don't think it's possible. But that's what we're going to have to wait and see. But we need to learn a little bit more about Texas A&M with David Nuno of Texas Aggies. He'll be joining us here in a second. But got to tell you about our friends over at Goat Lab Red in Fayetteville. A lot of you who are waking up this morning watching our pregame show, and you're like, man, I'm excited for the game today. But the rain, I'm not sure about it. I don't know what to do. Do we risk it? Well, hey, just go over to Goat Lab Red, which is right there close to Razorback Stadium. And you can go indoors because, yes, they have a roof. That's great. They have all the TVs. They got signature brews. They got signature burgers. They got all of that great stuff. And you can check them out pregame, during the game, after the game, all the great stuff going on. Shout out to our guy, Bill, over there. Does a great job. And it's an awesome spot for you and the family and everybody to hang out. And say, if you're wanting to say, hey, we'll risk it, but if the rain starts, then we want to bounce out of the stadium, then just walk over. It's not that far. You can drive over there as well. It's the place to be when it comes to all Razorback pre and post game action, even during the game action. So shout out to Go Lab Red. You can find them at 1214 North Garland Avenue there in Fayetteville. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hear from our guy, David Nuno, on about the Razorbacks and A&M and what to expect out of the Aggies this upcoming game. Razorback fans, we know that Arkansas, Texas A&M happening this weekend, and for once, it's not in Arlington. It's actually a home game for the Razorbacks as they welcome the Texas A&M Aggies for the first time in Fayetteville since 2013. Didn't exactly go Arkansas's way. We'll see how this game goes, but to talk more about the Aggie side of things, let's welcome in friend of the show and friend of mine, David Nuno of Tex Ags Live down there at Tex Ags, covering all things Texas A&M. And David, as always, good to talk with you, man. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm great, John. Thanks for having me on. And by the way, we've rebranded Arlington to Arlington because it's our city. We took over it 10 out of 11 years, whatever it was, 11 out of 12 years. But I'm happy to see the Ags go to Fayetteville, get this game back on campus.
Yeah, I think everybody, especially here in Arkansas, was about tired of that game always not going Arkansas's way, especially since it was Jerry Jones's house. It just didn't seem right. So, but let's talk about Texas A&M. I know that was a lot of people before the season wasn't really sure about A&M. I'm going to take some credit and say that I had A&M as one of those dark horse teams that could come up. But so far, it's gone pretty good for A&M. Undefeated, top 5 team. Just what's made the Aggies so good, and why are they sitting here undefeated, one of the best teams in the country right now?
Complimentary football team, right? Like everybody's got everybody's back. You have a defense that, takes care of the offense when there's issues. I'll point out the Florida game last week. The defense got carved up the first 2 scores of the game, right? It was 14-14 in the first quarter of the game, and it was just all offense from the Florida side. What did the defense do the rest of the way? They gave up 3 points, and they just limited everything that DJ Lagway and the Gators tried to do. If you need a shootout, the offense can do that. They did that a couple of weeks back when they beat Notre Dame on the road. If you want a defensive grind-out game and just run the ball, they can do that as well. So they can beat you multiple ways, and I think that's the reason behind it. They're a deep team. When they've had some injuries, as you know, Le'Veon Moss is not going to be playing in this game against Arkansas, but some of these injuries, they have a group behind these players and people that are playing at a high level that just make the linebacker room that much better, the defensive line that much better, the running back room that much better.
Well, you mentioned Le'Veon Moss. Just what's the status with him and like how big of an impact? Obviously, losing a starter is going to have an impact, but how is that going to really change things for Texas A&M's offense, not only in this game against Arkansas, but moving forward?
Well, let's take a look at it from multiple perspectives. First off, what did it do to them last year? Well, last year when Le'Veon went down, A&M couldn't win a football game, right? They just struggled. Now, I don't think it was all about the offense, to be honest with you. On my show, I've said many times, I think the defense failed A&M last year, that they had just enough offense to win these games. They put themselves in position to beat Auburn with a late score. They put themselves in a position to beat USC with a late score, but the defense gave up game-ending drives. So I think, look, you're not as good without Le'Veon Moss. I mean, in this game against Florida, he had, 5 carries, 46 yards, something like that. He was fantastic. So you don't just magically get better without him. But what you do have this year is a deeper running back room than you had a year ago. Last year when he went down, it was just really Amari Daniels and E.J. Smith. This year, Reuben Owens, highly touted, a guy that could have been a starter 2 years ago, is healthy. He's playing at a high level. You've still got Amari Daniels. You still have E.J. Smith and a freshman running back, Jamarian Morrow, that was getting touches with Le'Veon Moss out there. So the fact that he's not out there doesn't really affect. He's going to be playing a lot more. So you've got a more complement of backs this year than you had a year ago.
So looking at the Arkansas game in general, I know that, as we know, it hasn't gone Arkansas's way very often. But hey, Bobby Petrino as Arkansas's head coach is 3-0 against Texas A&M, dating all the way back. Different circumstances. But when you see a team like Arkansas going into Fayetteville for the first time in over a decade, just is there concerns there? Is there something about Arkansas that maybe worries you a little bit as an A&M guy? Or is there kind of one of these games to where, hey, if A&M just plays a decent game, they should get an easy victory here?
Well, it kind of depends on what day you ask me, because had you asked me that question in July, I would have been like, dude, going to Fayetteville, like that's going to be tough. I remember what they did to Texas a few years ago when Texas went there, and and like A&M hasn't played there in forever. And this A&M Arkansas series, yes, A&M wins a lot of the games recently, but they're always crazy, right? Like there's the missed field goal at the end off the goalpost. There's just craziness that has happened in this series all the time. So I think today I feel pretty good about A&M going there based on how A&M is playing more than anything negative against Arkansas. What I will say, though, is the fact that Bobby Petrino gets his first home game as the interim head coach, and the fact that we know that he is good to dial up something crazy and figure things out. So, yeah, I mean, because it's the SEC and all these games come down to a play or two, because that's what happens. Look at what's happened with Arkansas this year. There is one score game outside of every, of the major games outside of the Notre Dame game. The Memphis game, we know how that Arkansas should have won that game, right? We know the Tennessee game seemed like it was about to become a blowout, and then Arkansas makes it an interesting game with just a few minutes left. We've seen this happen over and over. So, yeah, there's always a little bit of fear because of the offense that Bobby Petrino can do. Taylor Green, I have so much respect for him as a running back. But in my opinion, A&M should be favored in most games that they're going to play the rest of the stretch. So they should win these games. A&M is favored because they're a very good team defensively and offensively. They should win. But I have respect for Arkansas. I have respect for going on the road in the SEC. So, nothing is a guarantee in this league.
So let me ask you this, David. It was so funny. Bobby Petrino got asked in his press conference this week about going up against A&M, a place you used to coach and everything. Is there going to be emotions? You could tell he's like, I was there for just a year and everything. Is there any sort of feeling like, oh, Bobby Petrino, former OC of A&M, does people even remember the fact that he was the OC over there at A&M just a couple years ago?
What's his name again? I'm kidding. No, look, I liked the year that Bobby was here. I think it should have worked. I think Jimbo, everything that I was told before the season started probably turned out to be true, right? Like, how much control did Jimbo give up to Bobby? Look, because he coached here for a year, there's a little bit of love for him, but like it wasn't a long stay. Like, he's not like one of these people that we're going to remember, like Cliff Kingsbury, who had this, a short stay as well, but there was so much success as the offensive coordinator. It was, it was all right. It was fine. They fired Jimbo the year he was here. He did fine. But look, I have a lot of respect for what he's done as a coach. I remember having several conversations with you when he was hired about what you can expect, the offense to do this, this, and this. And all those things came out to be true. I have a respect for him, but he's just another coach that coached here for, a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I think that's how pretty much everyone feels about it. Before I let you go, David, I always want to ask questions. When the permanent 3 opponents for every SEC team came out, I know here in Arkansas, everyone was talking about, who's it going to be? Felt like Texas was the decision there. And then Missouri, they're going to get stuck with Missouri. But that third team was always up in the air. I kept thinking maybe it's going to be A&M, maybe it's going to be Ole Miss, but it ended up being LSU for Arkansas. For A&M, the 3 permanent opponents, are A&M fans happy with those results? Because was there any connection? Like, we'd like to play Arkansas because we beat them so often. Like, how did they feel?
I think there was, it was weird because we thought maybe it was going to be Mississippi State as a third team because they got Texas and LSU. Ended up being Missouri. It seemed a little weird. Like, okay, I guess they both kind of came in through the Big 12 around the same time. So there's that, and they've played the last couple of years. But yeah, here's where I kind of struggled with it. There's a part of me that likes the nostalgia of Southwest Conference, reunited, right? And there's a part of me that's like, we moved to the SEC for a reason. So, I don't know, whatever. When you have a good football team, I don't care who's on the schedule, right? And when you have a bad football team, or a team that's not winning 10 games, which A&M hasn't in forever, we know that. Then you're like, who can they put as a permanent team that we can just take advantage of every year? So, sure, there's the nostalgia of Arkansas. It makes sense in a lot of ways, but I think because Coach Elko seems to have turned the corner for this program, and we've said that before, but it feels like this is sustainable. Didn't really matter. If it's Missouri, if it's Arkansas, had it been Mississippi State, it's the SEC, and every team's going to have their, especially with the way the schedules are working out now, you're going to have to play everybody every 4 years anyway. So, you know what? I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think Razorback fans are fine with it too, but until, they start losing all those games and they complain that we should have gotten somebody else. It's just kind of how it goes. But covering all things Texas A&M, talking about all things Texas A&M, it's David Nuno of Tex Ags Live and TexAgs.com. As always, David, it's good talking with you, man. Enjoy the game this week. The luck of the rest of the season, man. We'll be catching up with you here soon.
Thank you, Mr. Neighbors. Appreciate you, sir.
All right, that was David Nuno joining us of TexAgs. Really appreciate him and appreciate our official sponsor here of Inside Arkansas Football with our pregame show and postgame show action. It is Bet Saracen. It's the number 1 sports betting app in the state of Arkansas, and it's not even close. It is the place to go when it comes to all your parlays, to not only Razorback sports, but all the in-state colleges. You can go with it, college football, NFL, basketball, everything, and they have the great prop plays and the great specials happening right now for today's game. So if you want to get in on it, you better do it now. It's Bet Saracen, and you can download the app by clicking the link below. You click that link, it'll take you right to the store to where you will download it, and then you use that code INSIDEAR. Inside AR, that'll pop up to where if you use that code, when you bet $25, you get $125. You're not going to get a better deal than that. So get to winning big, get to doing it big, get to doing it the right way with Bet Saracen. It's Arkansas's number 1 sports book and sports betting app. And it's also the official sponsor of us here at Inside Arkansas Football with our pre and post game action. All right, fellas, I guess now we got to start talking about the really fun stuff, the stuff that can win money for when it comes to everybody involved here. It is the Bet Saracen prop plays, which we always like to have a lot of fun. So I went first, Kurtz went first. So Andrew, we're going to have you kick this one off. As far as prop plays go and other things with Saracen, how you feeling about some of the ones that they got listed here in this game?
So I might do the thing where I reference 7 things and steal all y'all's picks, but I do want to just address the 2 Talon Green ones because we bet on Talon props a lot, and I've had some success this year betting on Talon props. The Ole Miss game in particular, Talon was a cash cow that day. There are 2 that I have my eye on. The yardage props for Talon are getting lower and lower. They have one that's over 229.5 passing yards, over 59.5 rushing yards. Nothing to scoff at, but that's plus 325. The rushing is the thing that's going to be hard here because 60 rushing yards is just not a given when you're facing a team with a real pass rush. So there's a chance Talon runs for 65, 70 yards and then gets sacked 3 times and goes under. But if he can get 60 rushing yards, I think the 230 passing happens regardless of what the score is, honestly, just because Arkansas will have to throw the ball enough. I know there's rain involved, but at plus 325 seems like a lot of value. And Curtis, I know you bet the over on this one, the attempts and completions for Talon last week, and it wound up not hitting, but it didn't hit because Arkansas was in the lead. Arkansas didn't have to throw the ball to get back into the game.
One pass attempt, brother, is all we needed.
Exactly. It's crazy. And so it's like even last week where Arkansas was winning for most of the game, that bet still almost hit. Today or this week, it's over 33.5 attempts, over 18.5 completions, plus 230. I think both of those are just worth investing in. I know it's not groundbreaking reporting to say, hey, bet the quarterback props, but I think Talon in this type of matchup where he's probably going to be playing from behind, I think he can get both of these done.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I always like to go with the high level ones and the ones that get the little money that you get a big return, the great odds ones. And again, there's some of these that I just wouldn't touch, but this one I particularly like with Mike Washington, who had a great last game against Tennessee. We talked about him all about fall camp because that's all that anyone raved about is how good Mike Washington is. Glad we got to see a little glimpse of that against Tennessee. But I feel like with the weather, Arkansas, they want to establish that run. They want to get that run going. And you can get Mike Washington with Bet Saracen over 14.5 rushing attempts, and over a half rushing touchdown for plus 350. To me, I think that between him and Braylon and even Talon, I think that you're going to see those guys be the workhorses in the run game. I think they're going to focus in on it and establish it. And it's not even talking about yards. It's not even talking about any of that. It's talking about attempts. So I think you get 15 attempts at least out of Mike Washington. And surely if they get close to the goal line, you can punch it in for him. So plus 350. I like that one. I think he's going to get a lot of carries and a lot of run here, especially with the weather. But that's the prop I like.
That might be my favorite one right there. That's a really good one, John. I'm definitely going to be in on that one for sure. Earlier, Andrew, you mentioned Rohan and the tight ends and, maybe the potential impact they could have in this game. I am prepared to go back to the well with Rohan Jones because, like Sands last week, he's just come up for me. I've really cashed in on this man throughout the course of the season. It feels like week in and week out. I'm not going to lie to you. And then I also think about, which it's funny that Arkansas reporters did the thing, but Bobby Petrino was asked about the usage of his tight ends and getting them more involved. And instead of being like if they get open, they'll get the football like he did, a little while back, he did we definitely need to get those guys more involved and work the game plan in that. So I'm going to take that man at his word. So I see two of them here, over 1.5 receptions and over 31.5 yards at plus 220 for Rohan. And then I see a touchdown and over 15.5 yards per reception at plus 450. That's a big one. I like both of them. Seems like he's good for he's just randomly wide open out there. Nobody within 15 yards of him, and he'll pop off like a 35, 40 yarder. Well, then you just need one more catch, and you get the yardage there. I think he's going to cash in on one of those.
I like the yards per reception one. Which yards per reception is a weird number, because you can have 10 catches for 100 yards. That's a tremendous football game and not cash this one. Rohan Jones, though, 7 catches, 229 yards on the year. And he's had a bunch of games where he has a 41-yard catch. He has a 62-yard catch. He has a 23 against Notre Dame. He has a 1 for 21 against Ole Miss. So that might be the most reliable metric on this team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's been interesting to see him. Like, what was it? I guess in our stream the other night for EA Sports College Football, like Rohan was getting a lot of run. He was making it happen big time there, which was really cool to see and see how play it was. So, but either way, it was fun to try to check it out and see how it all went down and how it all made work. But either way, I think that with all those prop plays, you got the Cam Shanks one. It's he's always involved somehow, I guess, but I don't know if I feel good about it. The Raylan Sharp one, which I know is also kind of stupid and kind of weird too, because hey, was he going to repeat what he had last week? Maybe so. But this is definitely one of those that I feel pretty weird about when it comes to my betting. I'm going to be very selective. In this one.
By the way, if anybody listened to John do his Mike Washington soliloquy and you thought, man, I don't see it. Mike Washington's not going to be the guy. It's going to be Braylon Russell. Well, there is one that you can do for Braylon Russell. 9 rushes, 38 yards. They always set these numbers for Braylon very interestingly. This one cashed. Was it against Ole Miss? or was it Arkansas State where it cashed? I can't remember. But all you have to do is over 8.5 rushes, over 37.5 yards, plus 350 for Braylon Russell. So I feel like between the Mike Washington 15 attempts and this one, I feel like one of them has to hit. They're both at pretty good odds.
Yeah, no, I like them all. I like it. And you could win some big ones here. I know that like other ones are like game specials that you could have, like, which is always fun. Like, hey, if you think each team is going to score a touchdown and a field goal in each half, for instance, plus 1750. Like that's, you're talking about the next level type of deals there. Plus 1750 for just each team to score 10 points essentially in each half. Could be right there. But if you think each team's going to score a touchdown each quarter, it goes a little bit higher there. But field goals, maybe this is going to be a field goal there. Plus 1,200 for each of them to have their scored in each quarter. Not totally sure, which also is fun too. You can still bet on the regular season wins for Arkansas. If you feel like this is going to go one way or the other, you could make it happen.
What is 5 at now?
Well, if you wanted to do 5 plus regular season wins, it's at plus 185.
And that's 5 plus?
Yeah.
So if they could win 6, like it's not even an exact.
Yeah, well, it's like, I guess it is saying like 5, as in like if they win 5, but you bet on that 5, but they still win 6, you get that instead of like, oh, they have to win exactly 5 for you to get it. You know what I'm saying? So, but if you said 6, if you think they're going to a bowl game, 550 plus 550 is what they're sitting at. So, but if you think Bobby's going to get cooking and they're going to win 8, the regular season, which means they went out. Plus 7,500 is what you could get that at.
That's the haircut odds.
Yeah. That's the big one there too. So, all right, guys. So we're just got a few minutes left. Final predictions, scores, and all that good stuff. How's this all play out?
I felt a certain way all week. I'm not gonna lie. I've got a fire in my belly right now. David Nuno doing the Arlington thing. It made my blood boil. It's kind of a good one. It made my blood boil. I don't like that. The thought of the name of our GOAT, Darren McFadden, being besmirched on his day by the Aggies, it makes me sick. I'm not going to lie to you. I almost took the bait. I almost did the thing again. I almost talked myself into it, but I refuse to do this to myself again. Arkansas is in I'll believe it when I see it, prove it to me mode with me until it actually happens. So I see this one playing out like the LSU game did last year, where I think Arkansas is going to be highly competitive into the second half, into the third quarter, and then they do something stupid and Texas A&M pulls away. That's where I think this is headed. I've got 38-23 Aggies. I would love nothing more than to be wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at with this one.
God, I hope you're wrong, Curtis. I really, really do. I'm not super adamant that you are going to be wrong. I'm worried you are. For me personally, this is where I stand on this game. I think if you look at A&M on paper, objectively, much better football team than Arkansas. They're much more reliable. They have a much more sustainable formula of how they win, of how they do things. They're well-rounded. They don't make a ton of mistakes. It's a very reliable thing that you can just count on, and Arkansas is the exact opposite of that. Arkansas doesn't really have an identity offensively and defensively. But for me, I just look at A&M and I think, and I was very high on them preseason, I think they've kind of lived up to that. It's almost gone too according to formula. You look at their last 2 games, they went exactly how A&M wanted them to go. Like it was just exactly, if they could have scripted the whole game, it would have looked a lot like that. And they're a good enough football team to absolutely impose their will and make that happen against Arkansas. I just feel like they're due for a game where things don't go according to plan, whether it's the weather, whether it's just an inspired Arkansas team, maybe the atmosphere, maybe it's just general complacency coming from an undefeated A&M squad while you're playing a 2-4 squad. Maybe you're just overlooking a little bit. I think this is going to be a game that ends up being a little bit harder than A&M thought it was going to be. I also think they're just a good enough, well-rounded enough, mature enough football team to overcome that and get it done. But I think they're going to have to come back and take the lead in the fourth quarter. I think Arkansas is going to take the lead late in the game. They're going to be hanging around all the time. They're going to kick a field goal late. A&M is going to go right down and kick another field goal, win this game 31-30.
Okay. See, I've also kind of adjusted mine because I think I spoke it into existence where Arkansas is going to lose this game, but it's because they're going to go for 2 and not get it. That's the way I'm going to go for it. They're going to have a chance to tie it late in the game. They're going to risk it. something bad's going to happen. And I hate to do that, but maybe by reverse psychologying it, you can go the other direction. But I say the final score ends up being 28-27. Arkansas loses to A&M in a tough one.
These predictions are eerily similar to what we did for Notre Dame.
Yep. And then we saw what actually happened. So maybe that means folks just go to Bet Saracen and bet the house on A&M because that's kind of what it'll equate to.
Alternate spread at like minus 17.5 or something like that.
Yeah, just do whatever you need to do for that. So that'll do it for us, though, on our Inside Arkansas football pregame show presented by Bet Saracen. Be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas. And don't forget, following the game, Inside Arkansas football postgame show presented by Bet Saracen. We'll get all the reactions and all the details coming out from that as well. And that'll do it for us. For Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy the game, folks. We'll see you here right after the game ends between Arkansas and Texas A&M.